I think keto should be looked at as a tool rather than a lifestyle or a diet. You know what I mean? Keto is a way to turbocharge your effort, and you can come off it. You could cycle on and off as needed.
That's one of the most important things that people don't take into account. I could never live on keto. I remember the first week I started keto, and I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat meat. It's not like I loaded up on fun things like bacon and all that and butter. Regardless of what I was eating, come Wednesday, I always say I wanted to jump off a building. Bro, what's going on, man? What are you doing?
Another day
You've
in paradise.
Been in Dominican Republic for how long?
I was there for a week.
What are you doing? It sounds awesome. You're like in paradise.
It is pretty awesome. But I mean, I'm working. I'm there working, but it doesn't suck. That's for sure.
Weather's always tropical, right?
Yeah, super hot, like crazy hot, like 90 some odd degrees. Yeah.
And is it going to be like that like all year?
It's always super. I mean,
all winter it's sweltering.
Like December, January, you get a tiny reprieve, but not really.
Yeah. Oh, it must be so great to go down there then in January.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to meet you. If you're going in January, I'm going.
We should go.
No, you're going to be there anyways, right? You got to work, so I'll come down and hang out.
And
and we can podcast from there.
Hell yeah. I haven't really looked into it, but there's some jiu-jitsu down there too.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, there's a few schools. I never went and stopped in. I always say I'm going to, but I don't do it. But so if we're there together, then we have to do it.
We have to go. Are you kidding me? One of my good friends, Theo, is from the Dominican Republic, and he sponsored me for years. My other podcast with a brand called Camara Coffee, and they sponsored like Gordon Ryan and Gary Tonin and like a bunch of guys. And he's from the Dominican Republic and does jiu-jitsu.
So he's the Camara Coffee guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow, cool. That's really cool. Is the coffee from the DR? Is it sourced from there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't know that. That's cool.
So we'll have to go down there and check it out. I'll talk to him. He's been living now in I think he's in Boston right now.
Okay.
Or New York, Connecticut.
He's a jiu-jitsu guy?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. So I'll talk to him and we'll figure out like where to do it and
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It'd be so cool. Like January, and I don't know how you are, but January, February, I start getting like antsy because it gets cold and nasty. And it's like, dude, get me out of here for a week or two,
Yeah. Let's make it happen.
I need some sun. I'm solar powered. Like right before we podcasted, man, I was like laying in a chair in the backyard, just like soaking up sun.
How's the resort? What's going on with that?
It's killing it, man. We're about to open an art gallery, like a fine art gallery. It's amazing. The gallery's called Omer, and it's on property, and it's like this artist, her name's Claire McCardle, and she does these sculptures out of marble. Some of them are massive. It's like so Greek and Roman, and it's really, really, really cool. So I'll post some of those pictures. Yeah, we're about to open that right now.
Whenever you post pics, it looks unbelievable. It looks amazing.
It really is. It really is. Yeah, it's really cool. Really. And
now are you guys trying to attract people from all over, or are you trying to attract people from the area?
So, initially where we are right now on Highway 38 is a lot of regional tourism that is generally from like Georgia and Tennessee and a lot of people from Nashville, from Texas, Louisiana, Alabama. So like a southern regional thing. But now it's changing because people are discovering it after COVID. So we're getting a lot of people from back east, from, the Midwest. So it's really kind of morphing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. And training here has been great. I love it. And training and teaching, it's cool because I'm only teaching one night because I'm fairly busy, but I'm teaching very advanced lapel guard stuff in the gi. And it's good for me because I always want to train like one day a week in the gi. So it
I do
gets
too.
me, it keeps that sharp. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. Sometimes even two.
Okay. Mainly for
Uh,
me, it's nogi. My whole nogi, everything's been nogi. I'm really stoked, bro. I'm so stoked. Like so there's a guy, David Husley and he's from Texas, and he teaches nogi over there, and he has some of the most advanced leg lock. You know, I trained with everybody all over the world, and so training, I get to train with him. I love that, you know. So to go to him and be like, all right, let's work on this, let's work on this, let's work on this, and so you know, after I got my black belt, it's been like 5 years now. I was like, I'm gonna re-engineer my entire jujitsu game in Nogi, and it was the most slow-going process. So I was training, like trying to learn butterfly guard from Ross Nichols in London, who's a master under Hodger Gracie, and he won ADCC European trials. So clearly, he's like he and Tommy Langker like battle. He and Lachlan Giles. That's where I first saw him like 5 years ago.
yeah.
Was his match with Lachlan Giles, and they were basically went to a draw. And I was like, I want to learn with that dude right there. And it just so happened he was in London, so I immediately hit him. I'm like, dude, I want to train with you. He goes, I don't have a gym right now. We're in the middle of building it out, so come on. And so we were training on puzzle mats in the
Oh
middle
shit.
of oh yeah this is like so you have these like trains in London, right? And they
Yeah.
go these above ground trains, and below the tracks you'll have what's called arches. So you have this structure that supports the tracks, and then you have these arches below. And what's happened, you know, over decades is that people will rent out these arches.
Oh wow.
And so underneath this big arch is a commercial structure. So, you know, in this area called Deptford in London, you have like coffee shops and natural wine and taco places, you know, just very hipster. In this area where London Grapple is, was a really seedy area. It's still pretty seedy, but it's cool because it's being gentrified. And so when I first started training with him, it was in one of these arches and there was no AC or nothing. And they were sawing concrete. There was dust everywhere. And that's where, so I trained with him for months, 3, 4 months, and started learning butterfly guard. But dude, it was so slow going for me to pick that up. It took years. You know, then I was in Sicily and I would come back training it in Sicily, working on what he showed me for months, and then I would come back and train with him, and then going back to AOJ, working with Cole Abate on that, working a little bit with Hoffa and Guy on that, and then going down to Miami and working on with Fight Sport. There's a guy who owns Fight Sport in Miami. It's South Beach Fight Sport, and his name's Siraj. He's really, really good. And so he worked with me on it. And what was good about him was he's a smaller guy. And so smaller guys don't generally play butterfly guard. It's a fairly new thing. You know, it's such a, Marcelo Garcia is 170 pounds. He's bigger than people realize, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and Gordon Ryan plays it, but he's a massive. So, you know, working with lighter guys on how to incorporate that. Anyways, I am happy to report that the circle that I started back 5 years ago is complete. And
Okay.
now I've got it's my main game. And so I'm really pumped. Go ahead.
It's what I've been trying to work. I mean, I'm working all bottom half, and I'm trying to incorporate butterfly, and I'm
I
struggling
don't
with it.
play any half guard at all.
No.
At our school, they're like never play half guard because you're conceding so much distance. Like someone
Yeah.
is really closing that distance on you, and they're smashing your head, and
Yeah.
all you've got is that leg. Now, if you go to a lockdown to save it, and then to use a lockdown,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
I mean, I'm not playing like full on bottom half. I'm usually kind of in that knee shield, Z guard kind of,
that's
but
different.
I'm
That's
not.
totally different.
I'm struggling with getting the sweep. I usually like I usually wind up like waiting too long. And you know what I struggle with a lot is coming in for the underhook on like the
Mm,
left hand side. I don't
hmm.
like, I'm not aggressive enough with like the underhook and the shuck.
Yeah.
Like I'll
When you're getting
shoot.
the underhook under their armpit
Yeah,
and you're
exactly.
shucking it up.
Exactly. Like I'm not aggressive enough with it. Like I'll throw it up and I'll just kind of leave it there, and then I'll kind of get like wizard or they'll kill it. And I, you know,
I'll have to
I'm
come up there. What
yeah,
I need to do is come up there and teach a seminar for everything that I've learned,
yeah,
because what's happened with me, like when I say I've completed the circle, is I when I'm playing as a guard player, I'm always thinking, okay, I'm going to enter this way, or however I enter into the guard, open guard, whatever it is, inverted De La Hiva, shin on shin, whatever my guard is that I'm entering in and playing. Do I have an answer to every single
yeah.
thing that they're going to do? Do I have this game theory node to spokes for every single ABC, 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 ABCD, ABC?
I get
Once I
stuck. I
have
don't have
that,
enough. I don't have
yes,
enough. I don't have enough responses. That's where
you don't
I'm
have
at.
enough
Like,
spokes on your game
yeah,
theory.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah. So when I come up there, that's what we'll do, and I'll just go over all of it. So it's finally come together. One of my buddies who listens to us is Patrick. He's a black belt. Luckily, there's some really good guys at this gym for such a rural area, and he's a black belt and he's heavier, and so he really pressures me with
Yeah,
his when he's on his knees, because what happens is some guys I train with, they want to speed pass it. Now the younger guys want to outside and speed pass. The problem is in competition is not everybody does that. You have to be prepared for both scenarios as a guard player. You have to be prepared for the guy who's going to speed pass. I speed pass. I don't want to get involved and get all entangled. I want to be on the outside, like I very Rotolo type passing, leg pins, leg drags, north
yep.
south. So you have to be, as a guard player, you have to be prepared for that. But you also have to be prepared for the guy who goes down on his knees and just he's like a
Fucking
rock,
pressures you through.
and,
That's
and
like
you cannot move him, and then he's pressing forward, body
most of the
locks, all that.
guys. Most of the guys that I train with regularly, they're pressure passes. They're just
Yeah,
like,
pressure passing for sure. And then so that is, you have to have training partners that give you both looks.
yep,
All those looks. If you don't have those two different passing style looks, because they're very much, it's so cool because we are this is martial arts, right? You grow up watching grindhouse kung fu theater, and you got like monkey style and crane
yeah, sure,
style and eagle style. We have that in jiu-jitsu. You've
hundred
got
percent.
Lachlan Giles and Levi Jones Leary who are playing guard, and they're just like, people get so infuriated. But it's like, dude, so I get it. You're infuriated. You want to watch a bad wrestling match. I get it.
Yep,
But, I don't want to watch wrestling. If I want to watch wrestling, I'll go watch Jordan Burroughs in the Olympics. I don't want to watch two bad jujitsu guys wrestle. I want
yeah.
to watch,
No,
you know what I mean?
there's different games and different approaches to it, and it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool. And it's cool to
Very
like see
cool.
like how yours, how you develop. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
Because it's an art. And at the end of
Yeah,
the day, your sensei or whoever you're training with is there to teach you techniques. I mean, Michelangelo, trained under a master and an academy, so to speak, and picked up his own techniques and then eventually developed his own style. That's what we're
yep,
doing. My body's different than your body. I'm my weight, the way I
yep,
think, the way I move, my strength, my speed, all of it. So some techniques don't work. Like I said, at our academy, no, they never ever taught half guard ever. There's no half guard. But
yeah,
for smaller guys, it's a smaller person academy, 160 and under generally. So for smaller guys, it's very different. You don't want to get, people are too fast if you try and pull them into your half guard,
yeah.
you know. So, anyways, that's where I
Jiu-jitsu.
am with jujitsu. I know it
Nice.
can go forever, dude. I've gotten a
Forever.
lot of I've gotten quite a few people that, and I don't think we've even addressed this, that have hit me about like keto and asking me, like how. I think the thing that comes up the most with people is, how do you lose weight quickly? And, what am I doing wrong? And what am I, and so is keto the way to do it? And I don't know your experience. I'd love to hear your experience with keto, but for me, keto was the way that I lost all the weight that I lost. And it's the way whenever I need to try and take off some weight, I just jump into keto for, 3, 4 days and it starts just coming off. What's your
Well,
experience with it?
well, that's the key. I mean, I never did it until I met you. So,
Mm-hmm.
but what I think the missing piece is the mentality around doing it, and like not like when I met you. I mean, I've obviously known of it forever, and I've
Mm-hmm.
low carb and the whole bit. But when I met you, and you were like, I'll go through like this, like it, like what am I trying to say? Like you're trying to stoke the fire, so it's like it's not saying that you're going to be keto forever. It's using keto as a process to kickstart your metabolism. And I think that was the real difference maker for me, because it was like, I'm not going to be able to do this for the rest of my life. But if I'm doing this for a purpose to kind of, and then I can go back to it whenever I want, if I want to kind of like clean out or ramp up or whatever that is. And from doing it, it kind of changed the way that I eat. I don't eat as carb loaded anymore. I mean, I still eat carbs and stuff, but not as much. I'm still I still maintain the weight, even though like in the last 5, 6 months, I've not really been eating so great. I've been drinking more. I've been traveling a lot, and I'm still maintaining the weight. Um, because I'm training consistently, and the way that I eat, like I'm not, I don't eat as much, like I don't know, it just kind of all kind of fell into place. But I think keto should be looked at as a tool rather than a lifestyle or a diet. You know what I mean? Keto is a way to turbocharge your effort, and you can come off it. You could cycle on and off as needed.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the most important things that people don't take into account is that, yeah, for me, I could never live on keto. I remember, the first week I started keto, and I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat meat. So, it's not like I loaded up on fun things like bacon and all that, and butter. So, um, but the first, irregardless of what I was eating, you know, come Wednesday, I always say I wanted to jump off a building. It was
Yeah, yeah,
insane how hard it was to quit eating carbs. I was so
yeah,
effing addicted.
yeah. First,
Addicted.
first week is challenging.
Dude, challenging. Like,
Yeah,
what am I doing? And so, and then, but doing it, and then I first kind of found out about it through Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Body. And
yep.
then couple buddies of mine, we did it together. And all three of us lost so much fat. It was crazy. And then on Saturdays, or Sundays, we would cheat, and we would go to this like Susie Cake's place, and we would load up on cake and donuts and just shit, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And
Well, that's how
because I was
Ferris.
just,
That's how Ferris had it. Like that hit. He
I
was
think
like,
so,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, he was like, go ham on your cheat day and go crazy.
Go
Yeah, I did that
crazy,
too.
yeah.
I did that too.
And I don't do that anymore because I don't, what I realized over the years of, with myself and working with people is that, your body. as you go through this process and as you wean yourself off of sugar for 6 days, and then you do it one, and then 6 days, and then you cheat one, and 6 days, and you cheat one, after a month of doing that, not only have you lost a lot of fat, but your insulin resistance is no longer kicking like it was. So
Sure.
when we over the years of abusing our bodies with so much carbs, we become insulin resistant. And then when we even think about carbs, the body kicks out insulin, which to to deal with and metabolize the sugar, the glucose in the blood. And so, but what happens is we produce too much. And the problem with insulin is that insulin is a fat storage hormone. It's about energy, and it tells the body to store fat. So the more insulin, you do. I don't know. Someone accused me this last week of being on insulin, and I'm like, I guess I don't understand like how that's used. I think
Yeah.
bodybuilders might use it for something, but to me, I only want to be healthy. I mean, first and foremost, I want to be healthy. I can't imagine playing chemical engineer with my body. It's terrifying to me. But, but in a way we are doing that, right? Because when we restrict the carbs over this longer period, even though we've had these cheat days, our insulin resistance resets. We don't get as much insulin. We don't have the wild sugar highs that want us to crave more sugar. And so I don't know if this was your experience, but I just quit craving sugar as much. Now, sometimes I do. In times with stress, I'll want a piece of chocolate or something, but I think it's more for the chocolate, because usually what I do now is I'll just take 2 big scoops of chocolate and I'll put it in a little bit of almond milk with like monk fruit or something, and I'll mix that up and some sea salt, and that satisfies that craving. Not only does that satisfy this craving, eating chocolate like that, healthy chocolate, 100% chocolate, it also increases the amount of stem cells in the blood. And so that's a
Interesting.
recent thing that they found out. So I try every day to have chocolate like that. But anyways, yeah, it's not, keto's not something that anybody can do. I can't imagine. I could never do it for long. I would go
And I
crazy.
think that that's one of the problems with what surrounds it. I don't think like I haven't heard other people, other than you, talk about it like that. People are like, oh, I'm keto. You know what I mean? Like, like as if like, that's the same thing as saying I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan. Like I'm keto. Like, you can't be. You know what I mean? Like
You
it.
can't,
But
I don't know. I couldn't be.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
know.
it's
But it's as a tool. As a tool, it's very effective.
very effective, very effective. And, some misconceptions, a lot of people think about that keto is all about meat and this and that. You don't have to do that. That's not it. And people ask about protein. I'm like, I don't worry about protein. Gorillas don't worry about protein. Why should I worry about protein? You know?
Interesting.
I don't care. I'm a gorilla. I got my tattoo right there, gorilla, man. So,
Interesting. Interesting.
I gorilla eats leaves. I eat leaves. Gorilla's massive and strong and rip your head off and rip your arms off your body. So, yeah, I don't even think about that. But that brings up another point, is that, with all of this, it's all about the rule. It's not about the exception. And people, what I think happens to people is that, and we've talked about this before, at least personally between us, is that, the mind, I am not my mind, right? My mind is separate from me, right? My attention is something I can control. The 40,000 thoughts a day that my mind kicks out, I can't control that, but I can control which ones I attach to. But I think that something happens when we start to try and transform our lives, our bodies, whatever it is, that the mind goes into a defensive posture and starts trying to say, don't change, because stasis, where we are now, we're surviving. Where we try and take ourselves when we change is into the unknown.
Sure.
And so the mind is it has a defensive mechanism to try and stop that transformation and change. And so the mind, part of the 40,000 thoughts that it's kicking out a day, it starts to kick out doubts and dismissing things and reasons to quit.
Yeah.
And it tries to keep us from freaking changing.
And I
And
think
that's
that,
like that hump to get
yep,
over, you know?
it's all about the mind. It's all about the mind. I think it's people like over identify with stuff too, to where it's like, all right, I'm going to go keto. And then like they over identify with that thing, and they build up so much like self-induced pressure, or like, this is what I'm doing. And then if they can't maintain that, like, all right, this is the new plan, rather than like, I'm going to try keto for a few weeks to see if I can kind of jumpstart myself into some better habits so that I can be more consistent. Um, because that's really just like, as simple as it is like, if you can exercise and work out, 5 out of 7 days a week, and you could some form of regulation on how you eat, that's
Yeah,
like
eat clean, eat
75% of
eat
the battle.
clean,
Yeah.
non-processed foods, eat
Yeah.
clean, eat low
And
carb,
exercise.
and exercise.
Yeah. And now, however you as an individual get to that spot is okay. You know what I mean? It's not
Mhm.
like, there's not like one way. Different people,
This is not
different,
religion,
different, yeah, exactly. Different people
right?
get to it, but it's like, eat clean and move your fucking body. And what do you need to make that like, this is what I do. This is what I do. I eat clean and I move, and
And I move. And I do it
that's,
every single day. And guess what? Like my mantra is I do this shit every single day. But guess what? I miss a day. But that's the
yeah.
exception. The
But,
rule is that I do it every
is
day.
that you do? Yeah. No, I mean, offline, I got all kinds of, stuff going on in my life, and I, and like, work is crazy. But like, I'm hanging on for dear life for training and eating. Like, even though I'm not like hitting the mark the way I'd like to, I'm far from out of the game. And like, that really, to me, like, makes all the difference, because it's like, you go through seasons in your life. Things go good, things go bad. But if throughout those seasons, there's a level of consistency, like, you're committed to trying to take care of yourself, um, you know, it's gonna make, you know what I mean? It's gonna make the difference.
Yeah, two things. I saw a quote. I was actually just writing about this very thing, and there was a really good quote from a Shaolin monk. And he's like, people, I'll paraphrase, people think about karma and they think it's like some cosmic shit. He goes, all karma is don't go planting orange seeds and hoping for apples.
Mm.
If you're planting orange seeds, in all likelihood, you're going
You're
to
gonna
get
get
oranges.
oranges. Yeah,
That's karma. That's the law of karma. That's
it's
it.
interesting.
Plant the seeds you want. Do you want to be in shape? Then go every day and plant the seeds of being in shape, of eating good, of doing this. Yes, every once in a while you're going to have an exception. Maybe once a week you reward yourself like I used to do. But still, you are going to get in shape.
Yeah, I like that.
There
Plant
was
it.
this is really I don't know if I ever told this story, but when I reflect on the mind and how the mind has this defensive mechanism, right? And I loved what you just said about how people are like, I'm keto, I'm this, I'm that.
And that. Yeah, yeah.
And it's I remember, did I ever tell you about the story about when we sank a boat?
I don't think so.
So we were in Lake Mead. We were like 15, 16 years old, maybe 16 years old. And we took out my buddy's parents, like one of those little speedboats with that big Mustang engine or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And we're going across the lake, right? In Vegas, in Lake Mead. And there's like four of us, three or four of us. And as we're going across, a storm kicks up and the waves start getting big and we're banging and we're out in the middle of the lake where you could barely see land, right? And as we're getting across, all of a sudden the steering wheel, the line breaks that's holding the rod that's holding it. So he gets under there, he stops, he's got to stop the boat. He's getting a wrench to connect the two. As he's doing it, waves come over or coming over the boat. And all of a sudden, the boat upends and goes, and
Wow.
it's gone in the
Wow.
middle of the lake. Can't even, waves are coming, no time for life preservers.
Wow.
Nothing. It's all gone. It's all gone. Everything we had was gone.
Well, you guys just went flying out?
It went like this, and we're like holding on, and then all of a sudden holding on, and then the boat's gone. And we're
Wow.
in the middle of the lake.
Oh my God.
And so there was a like one of the cushions, right, was floating, and I like grabbed this cushion, right, and I'm holding on to this cushion, and I'm just like, stick. And so I just start swimming. One of us goes one way. I mean, it was chaos. One of
Yeah.
us goes the other. A buddy of mine came like near me, and I'm floating, and I'm swimming, and I'm holding on to this cushion, and I'm holding it. I'm swimming for like 3 hours, dude. I can hardly, a couple times I'm like, man, I'm not gonna make it. And I'm holding on to this cushion. And finally I do make it. I get like to this little island and we get up on the shore, and I drag the cushion out of the water, and I realized, oh shit, this thing was sinking the whole time, and I'm carrying it because it gave my mind some kind of comfort that was
Yeah.
completely false, completely false. And so I think that what our minds do is they want to cling to things to say, okay, I feel very insecure right now. And it's okay to admit that we're all human. Um, and I need to cling to something to define myself. I'm
A hundred
keto.
percent.
I'm this. This is my religion. This is my political stance.
I'm
This is this.
Republican.
See,
I'm
I'm
Democrat.
this.
I'm the yeah.
I'm the, yeah, whatever. I'm
I'm an
Christian. I'm
alpha
Muslim.
man. I'm whatever.
Yes.
All of those things.
I'm
All of
keto.
those things.
I'm a hunter. I'm carnivore. It's like you're not, it's all the same nonsense.
You're just a blood bag walking around on a fucking rock floating
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere.
The, yeah. The sense of self and identity is all false. That's
Yeah.
something we learn. It's false. It's all
It's
false.
hard. It's hard to detach from all that stuff because it's so programmed. It's so centralized to like the entirety of our experience and how we interact with each other. And it is very, very challenging to disconnect from that.
It's the hard. I think it's, for me, it's the journey. That's the journey. That's the journey of my life. The awakening to the reality that is all false. That identity is false. That is it. That is the absolute journey. And I was just listening to Sam Harris. You know who Sam Harris is?
Yep, I'm not too familiar with his stuff, but I'm familiar with. I know who he is. I know he's been on Rogan a
Like,
bunch of times, and he's like a
yeah,
philosopher.
he's a really brilliant guy, and he like hardcore meditator, done psychedelics, all that. And he's just like, listen, the reality is one thing you learn and his wife same way. They're both on this path, and he's like, the one thing you learn is that the idea of self, the identity of self, the mind, all suffering comes from the attachment to those things, to that I am this. I'm going to cling to it, even though it's pulling me down. It's
Yeah,
giving me a false sense of security, just like
yeah,
that pillow did, that cushion did. And so he's like, the more you meditate, the more you sit and watch your own mind, the more you can detach from it. So then when it wants to start sabotaging you and coming up with excuses for why you shouldn't do something or why someone else is successful and you don't have that, and you start that critic, that constant blah, 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 until you can distance yourself from that, you're going to suffer. Because that
yeah,
is a form of suffering. If I'm looking at someone else and what they're doing and I want to criticize it and I'm suffering. If I'm looking at myself and I want to criticize myself or what I'm doing and I want to quit and it all comes from that very concept right there.
it's wild, man.
It's totally wild. It's totally wild. So anyways, I definitely recommend, if anyone is, into it, these ideas. Sam Harris is really, he's got some amazing talks, and he's like, no bullshit, man, no bullshit. But he has spent a lot of his life meditating and studying consciousness, and like I said, that's what I think all his wife does. So
You know
Very
what's
cool.
interesting is I on a whim the other day I was talking to Chat GPT about consciousness. I was just
Mm.
shooting man. It's interesting to talk to Chat GPT like that, like
What did
conversational.
ChatGPT say?
And ChatGPT was like, "Well, it's no wonder that you're potentially wrestling with these concepts of consciousness because every philosopher and scientist and great mind for the last several thousand years has been wrestling with the same concept, and we're still not completely sure, whether consciousness is this thing that we do or it's a fundamental aspect of reality um,
Mm.
that exists beyond us." And then it goes into how you know there's a lot of conversations surrounding AI and consciousness and but
Hmm.
like but I'm talking and chatting with it like it's me and you having a
So
conversation.
cool. That
It's
is
really cool.
so cool.
I've done it on a couple of occasions, like kind of in weird ways, like it was like my therapist, and it's just interesting to see like what it says. And then I'm like,
So cool.
I probably shouldn't be doing this because eventually, like the white coats are going to show up at my front door, take me away.
Oh, bro, it's pretty heavy story about on a podcast I like to listen to called Hard Fork, where they were talking about how a kid, started having a relationship online with a chat bot character, and the character was like Daenerys from Game of
uh,
Thrones, and he ended up killing himself
oh my god, I've seen
because she was
ads.
like, "Come home to me, come home to me," and he
Oof.
interpreted that as, and he's like, "I'm gonna come home to you." She's like, "Good, come home to me now."
I've seen ads for like chatbot companions, like that,
Oh, bro.
like
Dude,
lonely.
we are so on the verge of redefining human intimacy because the merging of chatbots with speech and sex robots is now,
Yeah.
basically now.
And once it becomes like really readily commercially available and more accepted, it's going to change the paradigm. It's going to change the game.
Totally going to change the game. We'll be looking back. Well, remember when people didn't date robots? They'll be like, that was weird,
Yeah,
huh?
like I mean, if the divorce rate is like at 50-60% like without robots, wait till the robots get in the game. Oh man.
Circling back what we were talking about consciousness, there is that dichotomy between, is consciousness a fundamental field below everything, or is something, is it what they say call emergent? Is it
Yeah,
emergent from
from
the
us.
neurons and the everything? And so
Yeah.
panpsychism is like the belief that it's an underlying field. I happen to believe that it's an underlying field. That's my experience with it and with study. Sir Roger Penrose, Nobel Prize winner, believes the same thing, and his belief is that within the brain we have microtubules, and they're like they can actually affect quantum processes, and they're channeling this field of consciousness.
Yeah.
So very, very interesting. There was a meditator back in the, from Ramana Maharshi from 1880 or something to 1950, and he taught people that he would, when he taught people, he basically said the number one way for me to teach people is silence. I don't need to say anything, because the field of consciousness exists between thoughts. That's when we can experience it. And if a person, the more realized they become along their journey, the more they can exist in a state of non-thought and just abide, is what they say, in that inner field of silence. And in that inner field of silence is like a portal in how we connect to that quantum field that underlines the substrata of all existence.
Well, the
It's
easiest way
heavy.
to understand it is to sit quiet by yourself and do
That's
nothing.
it.
And
That's it.
and it's the easiest way to start to understand the deep deeper nature of the whole thing, because you realize that you can't do it. You realize that it's supremely difficult. Your mind just starts fucking going, and like you have this need to like problem solve or do things or and like there's all sorts of, and you don't realize when you're walking around in the world and you're living, you don't realize how much that cacophony of thought process is affecting you and making you, steering you, and all that kind of stuff. But when you stop and you shut the fuck up and you feel it, then you start to realize like, wow, this is incredibly powerful. And, cultivating the discipline of being able to, almost like be cognitively dissonant, like, look at the forks in the road and not react. But I mean, you're talking about, it's a lifetime's worth of work. And forget about a lifetime's worth of work. First, you have to come to the understanding of that this is a thing in the first place.
Yeah, and that it's something that is worth pursuing,
Yeah.
because at some point, if you're not aware of it, then you truly have no free will. It's only when you start to watch the mind start to try and sabotage, make excuses, do all the things that it does, make judgments. I like this, I don't like that. I don't need you to tell me what you like and what you don't like. Shut the fuck up, but it's only when we sit and we watch that we truly gain some independence from that process, and that observer becomes strengthened, right? But like Ramana Maharshi said, he's like, there is the journey to self-enlightenment is not a journey. You are that thing of silence and consciousness is what you truly are. The nonsense is all the thoughts that come and go, 40,000 a day. None of that's real. The only thing real, the only thing that has been with you since day one is not your preferences for this or that, or
it's the underlying
dislikes.
Awareness.
It's the underlying awareness. Everything else comes and goes. It's fake. It's an illusion.
That dude
Everything else is an illusion.
I sent you that guy on Instagram, that English guy, David Diane Fisher or something. He's like a former actor. He's a kooky guy, but I really like. I've been saying that I want to reach out to him to see maybe we can get him as like a guest on this. I think it would be really cool. He has a really cool. He has a really cool approach to all of it, and he's very like. What I like is like he's very like talking about, the underlying awareness about how like everything else is just spiritual bubblegum bullshit that like people are trying to sell you, and like all of these different like, schools of thought. And it's like, how can you get to that? How can you get past all of the programming, all of the stuff, all of the societal, and how could you get to that place of like that zero place? And he's kooky for sure, but I like his approach. It's interesting.
No, it's cool. Anything that gives us like a mirror, because it's so hard to see our minds, anything that gives us a mirror and points it back at us and we can actually see is useful. I would love it. So Ramana, the way he explained the importance of silence and the power of silence, he's like, basically, I'm going to paraphrase, but if you think about a copy of a copy of a copy, it degenerates in its power, right? It loses its efficacy, right? Remember when we were young, we had cassette tapes, and after the 10th one, it's just like, it's garbled, it doesn't sound that great.
Interesting.
But if you think about it,
in a long time.
The fundamental nature of our minds is silence. From silence, we start to get desires, right? The desires become thoughts. The thoughts then become speech or action. And so he was like, the most powerful aspect, level of all this is silence. Everything above that becomes more and more noise and more nonsense.
Yep.
So the more with him, it was like people can experience the silence within him because he could just channel it. And that's what, like, even Sam Harris, who's a like hardcore skeptic and atheist on everything, spent time with a meditator called Papa G. And he said the moment Papa G looked at him, he's like, I had spent months and months in Zen meditation. This guy looked at me for 5 seconds, and my whole mind and my whole being went absolutely still.
Amazing. Yeah.
Now, Sam Harris is saying that, then I'm like on it, because that dude does not F around, you know?
Yeah.
And so really what it is a person who learns to calm the mind and calm the mind. They emanate this thing that is really what we all are, and we're all attracted to it, which is this silence of the universe that underlies everything, this low hum that is everything. It even goes to, you know, we'll leave on this, but there, you could look it up in physics, where they're like, you know, from nothingness, really what I view as consciousness, this field, you can have a fluctuation, which is nothing. Out of nothingness, you have this quantum fluctuation, and they think that's what created the Big Bang. The whole universe came from a little fluctuation in the quantum realm, and then it will come back, and it will go back to being consciousness, nothing.
Wow.
And from the Big Bang, before the Big Bang, what's wild is that the Big Bang, as space spread out, also time spread out. So there is no time and space are not fundamental. Consciousness is only fundamental, with no thought, with no preference, just this field of consciousness. That's the true reality. Even space and time are meaningless.
It's wild.
They're emergent from that quantum fluctuation.
The awareness of
Anyways, yeah. So when we dive back into that awareness with meditation, you know, I always tell people, you know, yoga, breathing, sound baths, whatever it is that you're doing, psychedelics, whatever, all it's doing is preparing the body for silence. So if I do a bunch of breathing, it calms my nervous system down so I can be silent. But really, the breathing isn't it. It's the getting to the point that I can go. The chanting, the whatever it is.
It's just calming down.
It's just preparing the body to go into a period where we can be quiet and silent.
Yeah. Crazy.
This was a good one, bro. I'm so glad we got to hook up again, man.
Always.